So recently I decided to take a stroll down memory lane and rewatch some of the earlier 2000s to mid 2000s reality TV shows that I used to love watching. And I just so happened to land on this one specifically called Bad Girls Club. And I watched every single season, every single episode, every single spinoff from beginning all the way to the very bitter end. And if you don't know, the premise of the show is they casted 7 different bad girls from the ages of 21, I believe, to 29. And they all came from different states, different cities to live in this mansion all together. Or at least the earlier seasons, they lived in a mansion. I'm not sure what they were living in the later season. I believe they lived in a condo at one point, but we'll get to that. But they moved into this mansion and it was kind of like a social experiment to see who vibed with who got along with who didn't get along with who, what meshed well, what didn't mesh well. They filmed the show for about 3 months and anyone who tried out had to submit a casting tape answering the infamous question, what makes you a bad girl? And honestly, I don't remember what I personally put in my casting tape. I'm kidding, but could you imagine? So the purpose was to get rid of this bad girl behavior that you came into the house with. By the end of the 3 months, the whole experience, you're supposed to leave a whole new person, a healed person, right? Or at least that was the purpose of the show, because somewhere around maybe season 5, 6, or 7, it just became about who's running the house, who's the baddest bitch, who's the toughest bitch in the house. It became survival of the fittest just to make it to the very end of filming. The show was also very known for their physical fights. In the earlier seasons, it was a buildup. You know, it took a couple of episodes for the tension to grow. The tension grew to the point where it exploded into something physical. In the later seasons, it didn't take much to get to a physical fight. What do you mean you're hungry and you want breakfast? Come on, let's go. We're going outside to fight. Whose dirty dishes are these in the sink? It's yours? Okay, come on, let's go outside. We're going to fight. What do you mean it's sunny outside? Okay, come on, let's go outside. We're going to fight. Like, they fall over the most dumbest, pettiest reasons. And I was guilty of enjoying the mess too. You know, I'm pretty sure we all did. You know, my blood pressure was on 100. My blood was just pulsing. You know, anybody even said good morning to me the wrong way. And I'll be like, what do you mean good morning? So I'm gonna go through every single season, starting off with season 4, and rank every single cast member, replacement included, to see if they left their mark on the Bad Girls Club. Are they forgettable? Are they unforgettable? Are they truly a bad girl? So I made a chart and I'm gonna put it right here of 5 different categories. And I labeled every category after something that happened on season 4 or a famous quote from season 4. Starting off at the bottom, we have pack your bags and leave. And I mean, the name says it all, right? You know, pack your shit and go. Anybody who gets put in this category, they should have never been put on the show to begin with. They are not a bad girl. They're a flop. They were taking up oxygen in the house when we could have had a bad girl in her placement. So the next category above that is called replacement. Anyone in this category should not have been put in the house first. Maybe she should have came as a replacement or be a 3rd choice or a 4th choice. Maybe if we had nobody else to get on the show, maybe she should have came in, but we could have gotten somebody better. The next category is labeled Team Extra. This comes from when Natalie divided the house and she labeled one side of the house, the girls that she liked, team leaders, the leads. The other side of the house, they were the team extras. They were just there taking up space. And this category is not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good. Like, they're just there, they're an extra in the house, and I really don't mind them being there. Next category is labeled You're Good, You're Good. And this comes from the argument between Annie and Natalie, where Natalie shut her down and she was like, You're good, you're good, you're good. So anybody who gets put in this category, they're actually good for the show. You know, they have star potential. Like, I feel like if they would have gave a little bit more, I feel like we would have gotten more out of them, but they're good on the show. The top category is labeled I Run LA. Obviously, it's named after Natalie Nun's infamous catchphrase that she used all season long, that she's still known for to this very day. I run LA, I run LA, I run LA. I am the Bad Girls Club. So anybody who gets put in this category, they're memorable, they had iconic moments on this show, and people still remember them to this very day because of their impact on this season. First off, we have Amber. The first thing that comes to mind is when Flo grabbed her by the hair and she tossed her across the pavement like a damn volleyball. She went flying. And that whole situation came about because she was being homophobic. In the pool to Flo, she told Flo, I don't understand why you're bisexual, because Flo is bisexual. She was telling her, I don't understand why you like women and men. Why can you just like one? Flo was like, let me be. And next thing you know, Amber pushed her off the ledge of the pool. Flo landed in the pool and she broke her ankle. But that didn't stop her crazy ass, because Flo, she got out, she limped over to Amber, she grabbed that bitch by the hair, she tossed her. I'm like, Amber, how do you lose after you just broke somebody's ankle? But then again, Amber, she didn't have a good record of her fighting skills on the show, because the other moment that I remember is when she was getting her ass beat at the club. In that street fight. She was at the club, she was dancing with this guy. Next thing you know, his wife approaches her and she's like, oh, that's my husband. I'm like, damn, Amber. So they take it out to the streets, they start fighting, and then Amber, it's like seeing a damn rag doll. She's just being tossed around like... If Natalie wouldn't have helped her out, I'm not sure what would have happened to her. I will say, though, that Amber did stand her ground with everybody that she ever had an issue with. Even if she knew that she was going to get tossed around every other day. She had no issue going one-on-one against you or confronting you about anything. She did it with Natalie. She did it with Flo. She did it with this girl on the street. So I'm pretty sure, she has some type of a backbone. So for that, I won't give her, the very bottom placement. She'll go in replacement. She would have been a good replacement or a good second choice in the house. Next up, we have Kate, the blonde of the house. And I mean, what can I really say about her? Because she spent most of her time in the house either sleeping or complaining. She'll wake up and she'll be like, I'm hungry. I want bacon and eggs and French toast. I'm gonna go by the pool and tan. And that was it. Like, she really didn't participate with too many people in the house. She had a feud with Natalie at the beginning of the season. Natalie kept walking all over her. And the second that she threw a shoe in her face, what did Kate do? She got up and I thought she was gonna defend herself. And she was just like, Natalie? I'm like, what is that? Why are you throwing fists at Natalie and you're looking that way? She's over here. She continued being Natalie's doormat all the way up to the reunion where Natalie spit in her face. And what did she do? Nothing. She got up to try to make it seem like she was going to do something, but then she told security, grab me before I reach Natalie. Yeah, you're lucky security's holding me. I'm like, hey, please, sit down. On top of that, she didn't even make it to the very end, because by I forgot, towards the end, everybody that she was cool with had gone home, or they were sent home. So she was left with like 3 other girls who didn't like her. So she was by herself. She decided to leave, but on her way out, she decides to punch Annie in the face. Well, if you want to call that a punch, she gives her little baby tap to the cheek, and Annie's just sitting there like, oh my, I just got punched. And then she ends up getting jumped by Lexi, the replacement, and Amber. And that was her exit. On top of that, she also made a lot of racist and ignorant comments on the show when she told everybody, I don't want to go to a sweaty black club. And everybody was like, what are you doing? Like, you can't say stuff like that. You sound racist. Do you hear what you're saying? And she was like, no, I don't mean it that way, which I'm not really sure what she was referring to then. For that, yeah, she was going to have to go at the very bottom of pack your bags and leave. You wasted the opportunity for somebody else that we could have had on the show. Then we have Annie, and Annie wasn't your typical bad girl. She was not confrontational. She was not going to get into a physical fight with you. She was just there to have a good time, to bake cake and cookies and have a good time with everybody. It's interesting how they paired her off with Natalie at the very beginning when they first walked into the house, because they're two polar opposite people, right? And Natalie kept trying to walk all over her, but Annie just kind of was just like, okay, I'm not taking you serious. It wasn't until towards the end, once Natalie, Flo, and Porsha had left the house, that Annie, all of a sudden, now she thinks that she's the baddest bitch of the Bad Girls Club. She started being rude and disrespectful towards the replacement, Lexi. She was body shaming her, calling her all types of names, poking fun at her for no reason. It was all unprovoked. They kept looking at her like, where's this coming from? And Annie, obviously she felt bold now that everybody else had left the house. She thought she was running it. And I believe the last time I saw of her, she was a reporter. So good for you, Annie. But Annie, for you being a different type of bad girl and being quirky and funny and having your funny moments, and you still knew how to have fun, yeah, you were judgmental every now and then. I'm gonna have to put you up there with you're good. You're good. You were fun to watch on the show. Next, we have Flo. Everybody hide. Next, we have Flo, and rewatching it now I see where her temper tantrum, her anger, her behavior in general comes from. It all comes from jealousy. At first she started off nice with everybody. She wanted to be everybody's mother basically because she was the oldest. I believe she was like 26 or 27. She was in her late 20s, and everybody else was like 21, 22, and she constantly kept trying to, oh, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't sleep with them. You should value your body. No, you shouldn't do this. Flo, shut up. Like, if I want to do X, Y, and Z with X, Y, and Z, let me do it. But she was jealous because she wasn't participating or she wasn't getting any type of action in the house. She'll literally be sitting there watching them hook up, and she'll just be upset, smoking her cigarette like, I can't believe this. You should really value you should really value your body. Like, you shouldn't be doing this at your age. Like, your body's a temple. Shut up. Like, she was so judgmental. But then when they went to the gay club, she was free to do whatever. She was making out with whatever. Her face was in between the breast and everything. And there was no issue then. There was no judgmental there, right? You shouldn't, protect your body like a temple then, right, Flo? But all of a sudden, everybody else has different rules. And she had a very interesting way of arguing with people because she'll give you a compliment and then she'll follow it up with an insult like, look, you're so beautiful, but you need to stop acting like a slut, okay? I love you, though. Like, it was all over the place. And I do wonder how her journey on this show would have been if she would have never broken her ankle due to Amber, like I said a second ago. Because after that, nobody wanted to hang out with her. Natalie, who was her closest friend at the time, okay? She flipped on her, but Natalie, she flipped on everybody in the house. And she didn't want to hang out with her because she thought she was doing too much by bringing her crutches, her boot on her foot to the club. And, she just spent her time in her room. And eventually she started going crazy because nobody would talk to her. And she decided to voluntarily go home. And that was unfortunate. And then they started throwing water balloons at her. That was so messed up. And then at the reunion, she went off on Natalie. They kind of got into it. And then she got into it with the host, Perez Hilton at the time. And she was like, you better believe it, Perez Hilton. And allegedly, supposedly, Flo is Drita from Mob Wife's cousin. And I mean, I believe it. I see the similarities. It runs in the family, obviously. And I just saw her Instagram not too long ago. And Flo, I believe she still looks the same. She looks great. And I believe she's like a psychic or a tarot reader or something like that, whatever. But, regardless, Flo, her tantrums, her behavior on the show, I'm going to have to put her up there on I Run LA. Lexi was the only replacement that we had this season, and she replaced Porsha. She came into the house with this ditzy personality, and she says that she was only pretending to be dumb so people wouldn't come for her. I don't believe it. I really do think that this is who she was, but okay. She'll be sitting there and all of a sudden, unprovoked, she'll just be like, I just farted and it smells bad. Like, what, Lexi? But Lexi was a free spirit, though. Like, she was so much fun. She was down for whatever. The second that she got to the house, she went skinny dipping, out of all things. And yeah, she did every activity, and she wasn't a buzzkill. Like, if somebody was down to do something, so was she. And that's what we needed on the Bad Girls Club. But I'll have to put her in the category of Team Extra, because she wasn't a bad replacement. She wasn't a bad cast member. She was good. She had potential, but she was just there. And speaking of Porsha, she's up next. So even though she was only on the show for 4 episodes, she is still remembered to this very day simply because she was the very first person, if I'm not mistaken, to drag Natalie Nun on TV. Because Natalie, from then to now, she's been through a couple of dragons. But Porsha was the very first one. And rightfully so, too, because Natalie knew what buttons to push with her castmates, specifically with Porsha. Porsha being a mother, Natalie, she kept poking fun at her like, oh, you're calling me a hoe, you're calling me a hoe, but look at you, you're the one having children, you're the one that has a daughter, and you don't even know who the father is. So as soon as she said that, from what I remember, Porsha, she overheard that in her window. Porsha, she ran through the entire mansion. Again, this is when they had those big ass houses. Porsha, it took her like 3 hours to find Natalie. She was like, Natalie, where the F are you? Where the F are you, you slut? Where are you? Where are you? Flo, if anybody remember, Flo was running behind her with the high heels on. Flo was like, hold on, Porsha. And Porsha eventually found Natalie in the front of the house. and she just pushed Natalie and she started dragging her. But Natalie was quick with it though. Even though she had that tight black dress and she had her high heels on, she flipped Porsha over. I'm like, wow. But Porsha, she popped up like a damn Pop-Tart. That was impressive. I need to learn that move. She popped back up and she started, So they started going at it. Eventually they fell over. They separated them. And all I hear is Kendra in the background. Porsha, stop it. Natalie, stop it. Like, Kendra, be quiet. So she got sent home, but in my opinion, it was worth it, and that was that. So for that alone, Porsha, we don't even need to discuss the rest of the time of you on the show. For this scene alone, you go up there on I Run LA. Then we have Kendra, and she has so much potential, but she spent most of her time up Natalie's ass or being her puppet because Natalie, she knew the connections in LA where they were filming at the time. She knew all the guys, all the hot spots, and Kendra, she wanted to be a part of that lifestyle. She wanted to be a part of Natalie's circle. She even had a chance to send Natalie home on the second episode after Natalie hit her in the face in the limo, and she still chose for Natalie to stay simply because she wanted the connections and her lifestyle. And I do wonder though, if she would have sent Natalie home on the second episode, would we still know who Natalie Nun is to this day? Or, because then the whole season, the whole show would have been completely different without Natalie. But, and then she continued betraying you, Kendra, later on when Natalie finally went home. Natalie was caught outside for drinking in public, and then the police had to stop her. They gave her a ticket, and you tried to help her out. And what did she do? She attacked you. You both started wrestling on the ground, and then she finally got sent home. And that's your reputation on this show, And for that alone, yeah, you're going to have to go down there with Amber and be in the replacements. I feel like, maybe you could have been like the second, third choice, or they could have gotten somebody else. And lastly, we have the one and only Natalie Nun. Even if my name was Natalie Nun, these bitches still can't check me. She's so damn annoying with that. But the second that Natalie stepped foot into the Bad Girls Club, she elevated this whole entire show into a whole new direction. This is when I feel like people started jumping on the bandwagon and they wanted to watch, like, wait a minute, what's going on? What's happening? What's the Bad Girls Club? And it's because of her antics. She came onto the show with a reckless mouth. Like, everything that came out of her mouth was an insult. It was degrading somebody. It was disgusting. It was insulting. It was just awful, right? She even talked about the situation between Rihanna and Chris Brown and how she was basically team Chris Brown. She was blaming the whole situation on Rihanna. And then at the reunion, she tried to clean it up. Her other thing on the show was, I run LA, I run LA, I run LA, I am the Bad Girls Club. Like, anytime she didn't get her way, I run LA. What do you mean? I run this shit. I could buy this right now if I want to. I actually met her twice at some events that she was hosting about 12 years ago, a very long time ago. And we took pictures. I'll post the pictures here. And she was very nice, so I'll give her that. And now she has her own version of the Bad Girls Club called Baddies. And it's not the same thing as Bad Girls Club. It was entertaining for a good minute, and then now it's kind of wearing off. Natalie, now as a person, I don't see her as the same way as she was back then. I see her as worse. Because now she tries to portray somebody that she's not. I'm just watching her like, she loves to portray that she's some tough person that you should be afraid of. Nobody's afraid of you, Natalie. And it's crazy too because back in 2009, that's when we first saw her get dragged by Porsha, and to this very day in 2023, she is still getting dragged on TV for a check. If it works, it works. If she loves it, then fine. But she goes up there and I Run LA, of course, because whether you like her or not, she did impact the show. So that has been my official ranking of every single cast member of Bad Girls Club Season 4. Let me know if you agree. Do you not agree? Do you think that certain cast members should be moved up and down? And what season should I do next? Let me know that in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.